Under the dim glow of the kitchen's overhead light, Tatum's eyes fixed on her father across the table. "You spent how much on renovations?" she asked, her voice trembling with a mix of disbelief and anger. Garrett, her father, leaned back nonchalantly, a smug smile playing on his lips. $25,000, he repeated, as if it were the most casual thing in the world. "You should see the improvements, really, Tatum. You'd be proud." The words echoed in Tatum's mind, each syllable triggering a wave of frustration. Proud? The very idea felt like a slap in the face. "That money was on my credit card, Dad," she challenged, her grip on the table's edge tightening with each word. "You took it without asking, without telling me. That's theft." Yet Garrett merely shrugged, dismissing her accusation. "Theft is a bit extreme, don't you think? We're family. Besides, you're doing well for yourself. You'll make it back soon enough." Tatum's heart pounded as she absorbed his indifference. She had always known her father was self-serving, but this crossed a boundary she hadn't even realized existed. Her life as a financial analyst was a testament to her dedication and discipline. Saving money was her second nature. Over 6 years, she meticulously budgeted and sacrificed vacations, all for a secure future. Garrett had never understood the value of restraint. To him, money was fluid, not a resource to be guarded, but a means to support his grandiose visions, all at someone else's expense. Growing up, Tatum learned to shield herself from his irresponsible whims. Garrett had a knack for talking his way out of trouble, wrapping carelessness in a cloak of charm. "It's just family, Tatum," he'd often jest when challenged about unpaid favors and borrowed items that never returned. But that evening, the joke had run its course. "Do you realize what that money meant to me?" she asked, her voice a trembling manifestation of suppressed rage. "Do you even care that you stole from your own daughter?" Garrett rolled his eyes, as if she were the one overreacting. "Oh, stop being dramatic. It's just money. I needed a few things done around the house, and you were in a position to help." His nonchalance made Tatum's stomach churn. "You didn't ask me, Dad," she shot back, incredulous. "You stole my credit card." Yet Garrett simply shrugged again, polishing off his glass of wine. "What's done is done," he muttered. "No sense in crying over spilled milk." Tatum lay awake that night, her mind racing with thoughts that refused to quiet. Garrett's words kept replaying, "You'll make it back in no time." His cavalier attitude shrouded in those casual words left her restless. Finally, unable to quell her turmoil, she got out of bed and opened her laptop. Accessing her credit card account, she scrolled through the unauthorized transactions, each one more infuriating than the last. $7,500 at a home improvement store, $112,000 for roofing, $55,500 on landscaping. Every charge was a reminder of Garrett's indulgence at her expense. Determined to fight back, Tatum searched through the transaction details. Her heart leaped when she found the shipping addresses, all leading back to Garrett's residence. This wasn't just suspicion, it was hard evidence. The next morning, she called her bank, her voice steady as she described the fraud. "It was my father," she stated when asked about the perpetrator. The line went quiet before the representative spoke again. "In that case, we need to escalate this to our fraud investigation team. Law enforcement might get involved." The suggestion struck Tatum like a punch. Involving authorities was not her idea of resolution, yet Garrett had left her no choice. Later, she confided in her best friend, Delaney. As Tatum recounted her ordeal, Delaney's expression darkened with shared outrage, offering silent but unwavering support. Tatum understood now Garrett had mistaken family bonds for unconditional freedom. But he was about to learn how mistaken he truly was. Tatum's eyes locked onto Delaney's, searching for solace in her friend's unwavering gaze. "He's unbelievable," Delaney finally said, shaking her head. "You've got to hold him accountable. He can't keep walking all over you like this." A sigh escaped Tatum, heavy with the weight of doubt and familial obligation. "I know," she murmured, running a hand through her tangled hair. "But he's my dad. It's all so complicated." "Complicated or not, this is bigger than money, Tatum," Delaney insisted, her voice firm. "It's about respect. and he doesn't seem to have any for you. Her assertive words struck Tatum with an undeniable truth. This wasn't merely financial. It was about drawing boundaries that were long overdue. The next morning, Tatum sat at her kitchen table, a pile of documentation from the bank's fraud report sprawled before her. For years, Garrett had breached her trust repeatedly, but this time felt different, almost like a betrayal she couldn't overlook. His smirk at the dinner, his dismissive attitude, it all churned in her mind, punctuating each thought with a reminder that she had to take a stand. Summoning her resolve, Tatum drove to Garrett's home, determined to confront him directly. She found him in the yard, proudly surveying the new landscaping. "Looks fantastic, doesn't it?" he said, his smile broad as he gestured expansively. "All thanks to you." Tatum's patience snapped. "You mean thanks to my $25,000, she retorted, her voice edged with steel. His laughter was unsettling. "Tatum, we've already discussed this. It's family money, just a loan. That'll benefit us all." Tatum stared at him, incredulous. "A loan requires consent, Dad. You took it, never even asked." Folding his arms, Garrett's demeanor became defensive. "You're young. Plenty of time to reclaim it. Why blow this out of proportion? For Pete's sake, I'm your father. Haven't I done enough for you over the years?" "Done for me," Tatum echoed, her voice quivering but defiant. "What have you ever done but take? This is the first time you got caught." Her declaration hit him visibly. His countenance shifted to something darker. "Watch your tone," he warned. "You're sounding ungrateful. Remember, I raised you. Didn't leave it all to your mother." Though hurt by his words, Tatum held her ground. "Ungrateful? I've spent years cleaning up your messes, forgiving your trespasses. But this crosses the line." Garrett's confidence faltered for a flicker of a second. "Are you really dragging this outside the family?" he asked, suddenly wary. "I've already involved the bank," Tatum replied resolutely. "The fraud investigation has begun, and if you think I'll back down, you're mistaken." The next morning, Tatum listened as Mr. Langston, the fraud investigator, explained the subsequent steps over a cup of coffee. "Given the matching shipping addresses," he said, "it's evident these charges were unauthorized. We'll need your official statement, and this will likely escalate to involve local authorities." The mention of police piqued Tatum's anxiety. "Could that lead to charges against him?" she asked, her voice carefully controlled. "Yes," Mr. Langston confirmed, his tone factual. "It's theft, simple as that, and the sum involved makes it significant. Law enforcement will decide on the action required, but prepare for that likelihood." As she ended the call, Tatum's hands trembled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Garrett had always sidestepped consequences, his charisma shielding him. But now his deeds were closing in. She immediately reached for her phone to update Delaney. "When the police reach him, he's going to flip," Tatum said, pacing the floor. "I'm worried it might destroy our relationship for good." Delaney didn't sugarcoat her response. "Tatum, what relationship? He's exploited you for years, and by letting it slide, you allowed it to continue. This isn't destruction. It's self-preservation." Tatum paused, letting Delaney's words wash over her. Each truth felt like a jolt, stark, undeniable, and ultimately empowering. For years, Tatum had danced on the thin line of peacekeeping with Garrett, avoiding confrontation to the point where her own needs and self-respect faded into the background. But the realization struck her with startling clarity. She no longer wanted to feel like the villain whenever she stood up for herself. Delaney's words echoed in her mind, offering some solace. "Tatum, you're not the bad guy. You're brave for holding him accountable. Don't let him tell you otherwise." It gave Tatum strength as she sat at her laptop, the fraud report stark against the screen. This was bigger than the money. This was about carving out a boundary Garrett had been bulldozing for too long. Determined, she picked up her phone and called Mr. Langston. Her voice didn't hesitate, not anymore. "I'll file the statement today," she said with conviction. The fallout arrived like a storm that evening. Sitting down for dinner, her phone buzzed, Garrett's name flashing insistently on the screen. She took a deep breath before answering, bracing for the onslaught. "Tatum," he snapped, his voice as sharp as broken glass. "You filed a fraud report against me? Yes, Garrett, she replied, her tone unwavering. You took $25,000 without permission. What did you think would happen? His response was defensive, tinged with indignation. I didn't steal it. It was family money. I intended to pay you back. Now it's an official case. Do you realize what kind of mess this could make? Keeping her voice level, Tatum replied, It became a case the moment you used my credit card without consent. Actions have consequences, Garrett. A long silence stretched between them before his voice emerged low and threatening. You're being ridiculous. Blowing this out of proportion just to prove a point. Are you planning to drag me to court too? If that's what it takes, Tatum shot back. You've disregarded my boundaries for too long. This isn't about proving a point. It's about finally protecting myself. In a voice brittle with disbelief, he replied, After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me? She laughed bitterly. Done for me? Taking credit for my work, borrowing without repayment, disappearing when responsibilities surfaced. That doesn't count as support. The line went silent again. Then, colder than she'd ever known him, he threatened, You'll regret this, Tatum, before hanging up. Left in the quiet aftermath, Tatum trembled with a mix of anger and fear. Once more, her resolve was tested against his manipulations, twisting her standing ground into villainy. She confided in Delaney. He actually said, I'll regret this, she shared, her voice simmering with frustration. Let him simmer, Tatum, Delaney replied, unyielding. He's mad because he's finally facing the consequences. Don't let him scare you into backing down. Her words offered comfort, yet the disquiet lingered. Tatum wasn't retreating, but she knew this was far from over. 2 days later, the anticipated call arrived, not from Garrett, but her mother. Tatum's mother didn't waste time. Tatum, what are you doing? Your father is beside himself, saying you're out to ruin his life. Steeling herself, Tatum inhaled deeply. I'm not ruining his life, Mom. He took $25,000 from me without asking. I reported it as fraud because that's what you do when money is stolen. He's your father, her mother emphasized, as though that justified everything. And I'm his daughter, Tatum countered, trying to remain calm. That didn't stop him, did it? Her mother sighed, the sound dripping with disappointment. You know how he is, Tatum. Doesn't mean harm, just doesn't think. Couldn't this have stayed within the family? Tatum, stunned, repeated incredulously, handled quietly. Mom, he spent $25,000. The rain tapped gently against the window as Tatum stared into the distance, her mind swirling with thoughts of choices and consequences. How did it come to this? A father-daughter standoff over deception. The realization that there was no going back filled her with both resolve and a deep-seated sadness. When her mother's voice crackled over the phone, the words were laced with an unspoken plea. He's your father, Tatum, she insisted, as if the simple fact of blood relation redeemed all. He didn't mean any harm. He's just overwhelmed with the house and the bills. Tatum felt frustration build like a storm. There are always excuses, aren't there? He didn't mean to, he's stressed, she retorted. And yet here I am, left to clean up the aftermath. Her mother's tone softened, pleading. Please, Tatum, let this go. He's saying you're turning everyone against him. Shutting her eyes, Tatum tried to drown out the guilt gnawing at her. I'm not turning anyone against him, Mom. This was his doing, and I won't drop it. An icy silence fell between them before her mother spoke again, her voice tinged with cold resignation. Well, when this all backfires, don't say I didn't warn you. The line went dead, leaving Tatum staring at the phone, her emotions a tangled mess. She reached out to Delaney to share her turmoil. Mom thinks I'm overreacting, Tatum confided, pacing with uncertainty. Delaney's response was swift, unwavering. Of course she does. She's been enabling him for years. But Tatum, this isn't about her, it's about you doing what's right. Despite Delaney's support, an uneasy feeling lingered within Tatum. As the days passed, the fraud investigation gained momentum. An update from the bank's fraud department confirmed all charges were flagged as unauthorized, and law enforcement had been notified. Mr. Langston had warned her that the police might contact her to verify details, stirring a mix of relief and dread in her heart. Garrett had spent a lifetime evading repercussions, but now the truth was in black and white, a trail he couldn't charm his way out of. That afternoon, as Tatum sat at her desk, a message from Delaney buzzed on her phone. "How's the fraud thing going?" Tatum quickly typed back, "Banks escalating it, police involved soon." Nervous, but it's the right path. Delaney's response was like a warm embrace. "Proud of you. You're stronger than you think." The words gave Tatum the resolve she needed, reminding her she was not alone. That evening, driven by a mix of lingering anger and resolve, Tatum found herself outside Garrett's house. She hadn't planned a confrontation, but her feet led her there. As Garrett opened the door, his face broke into a smug grin. "Tatum," he smirked, leaning casually. "Back to berate me?" "No, Garrett," Tatum replied, her tone even and firm. "I'm here to inform you that the fraud case has been escalated by the bank. Police will be in touch soon." His smile wavered, but quickly returned. "The police? Really, Tatum? You won't let it reach that point, will you?" "It's not in my hands any longer," she said calmly. "You created this situation." Crossing his arms defiantly, he challenged, "Would you let them come after your own father over a trifling misunderstanding? Stop calling it a misunderstanding." Tatum's voice rose, fueled by steely conviction. "You stole from me, and now it's time you faced the reality of your actions." Garrett's expression darkened as he stepped closer, his tone defensive. "You act high and mighty, but remember who provided for you. You wouldn't even have all that without me raising you." She met his accusation with a bitter chuckle. "Raising me? You used me as an ATM, and that ends now." With determination in her stride, Tatum turned away, leaving him to grapple with the reality of his dwindling control. In the subsequent whirlwind of days, the police requested a meeting, instructing Tatum to bring along the fraud report and transaction history. Sitting in a stark, sterile interview room at the police station felt surreal. As she handed over the documents, Tatum couldn't help but reflect on the journey, one of rediscovery and newfound strength. How had navigating the turbulent path of accountability become her burden, yet now it felt like liberation. Under an ominous sky that seemed to reflect the turbulence inside her, Tatum sat in the stark interview room, her fingers tracing the wood grain of the table. The officer's voice cut through the silence. "Thank you for your cooperation, Miss Riley. We'll be contacting Mr. Riley shortly to get his perspective." She nearly chuckled at the notion. Garrett's perspective would undoubtedly be an elaborate tapestry of excuses designed to sidestep responsibility. But this time, his charm couldn't outshine the paper trail binding his actions to his address. Unwavering facts had replaced conjecture, and Garrett's usual persuasive tricks were ineffectual here. That evening, the piercing ringtone signaled a call from her mother. The conversation began with an edge sharper than a knife. "The police showed up at your father's today. Do you realize how humiliating that was for him?" Tatum exhaled slowly, gearing up for the inevitable wave of guilt. "I told you it would come to this, Mom. He brought this on himself. I didn't force him to take my credit card. He's claiming you're trying to ruin him, Tatum. Can you really do this to your family?" With resolve hardening each word, Tatum retorted, "I'm not ruining his life. I'm ensuring he's accountable. If he didn't want this, he shouldn't have taken what wasn't his." An oppressive silence hung between them before her mother's heavy sigh broke it. "You've made your point, Tatum, but hasn't it gone far enough?" Swallowing her rising frustration, Tatum replied, "This isn't about a point, Mom. It's about boundaries he's repeatedly crossed. I'm finished letting it slide. If you can't understand, I don't know what to tell you." As her mother disconnected, Tatum felt the hollow echo of their strained words linger. Yet beneath the tension, an unfamiliar but welcome relief emerged. Driving home that night, a realization unfolded. For the first time in years, she was defending her own honor. Garrett had always taken without permission, always assumed her forgiveness was a given. Now, though, with the veil of denial torn away, he was facing the truth. Actions indeed carry consequences. When the hammer of official charges finally descended upon Garrett, Tatum was swept by a torrent of emotions. Relief at seeing him held accountable at last. Sadness for the stark reality of watching her father confronted with his choices. His charm couldn't sway the clear evidence: unauthorized transactions, shipping addresses linked directly to him, and the fraud report stamped with Tatum's resolve. The evening news of his charges brought another call from her mother, her voice now trembling. "Your dad's a wreck, Tatum." He's scared, unsure what to do. Tatum steadied herself with a deep breath. "Perhaps he should have thought about that before taking from me," she answered with firm calm. "You truly won't help him?" Her mother's tone was nearly a plea. "He's my father, yes," Tatum acknowledged, maintaining composure. "But that didn't stop him from stealing, did it? He's not the victim here." "I'm done playing that game." Her mother didn't argue, only offered soft words that gave Tatum pause. "I hope you're managing all right with all this." And used her mother's concern directed her way, Tatum replied, "I'm better than all right. For the first time, I feel like I have control over my life again." After the call ended, Tatum sank into the couch, letting the enormity of it all seep in. This wasn't just about $225,000 or a fraud claim. It was about reclaiming her power. Garrett had spent years testing the limits of her generosity and trust, but finally, she'd said enough. Despite the difficulty, a sense of closure emerged, washing away the lingering guilt and filling her with a feeling she hadn't allowed herself to embrace in years: pride. As the sun peeked through thick clouds, Tatum received the message she'd been waiting for from the bank. The reassurance that her funds had been reinstated was like a comforting balm, dispelling weeks of tension. The fraudulent charges were nullified, and for the first time in a long while, Tatum felt like she could breathe again. She had confronted Garrett, endured the family's turbulent reactions, and emerged victorious with her integrity intact. Previously, she might have avoided the confrontation, convincing herself it was not worth the hassle. But this time, she drew a line in the sand and stood her ground firmly. Garrett, it seemed, was grappling with the aftermath. Her mother had mentioned on a recent call that he was seeking a plea deal to bypass jail time. "He's really upset," her mother said, hinting at the weight of guilt they wished he bore. Yet, Tatum knew Garrett's pattern. Playing the victim was his forte when it suited. But understanding his emotional landscape was no longer her burden. This was her journey, and she was choosing to focus on herself. Clarity and resolve blossomed in the ensuing weeks. The dynamic with her mother remained fragile, but Tatum accepted that. No more maneuvering to placate Garrett's ever-fragile ego or contorting herself into peacekeeper roles. One evening, her friend Delaney brought over a bottle of wine, eager to mark the end of this saga. "To you," Delaney declared, raising her glass with a smile, "for showing the world that setting boundaries is non-negotiable." They clinked glasses, and Tatum couldn't help but chuckle. "Seems a $25,000 wake-up call was what I needed," she admitted. "Better late than never," Delaney chimed in, her tone supportive and reassuring. "You're stronger than you give yourself credit for, Tatum. Remember that." Tatum dived into her work with a revitalized spirit, her focus sharpened. Her financial safety net was secure, and more importantly, she had gained a lifelong lesson about trust. It's something to be earned, not just handed over even, or perhaps especially, when family is involved. As for what lay ahead with Garrett, Tatum wasn't certain. Yet she faced the unknown without fear of maintaining distance or healthy boundaries. Accepting no when necessary had become her new norm, and reclaiming her life felt more rewarding than any monetary sum. She had stepped into her own power, and that was a treasure beyond any financial calculation.